Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. We are halfway through the month of September, and so I'm going to talk about the 8 books that I have already completed this month. This month I'm hosting Series September with my friend Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, and 7 of the books that I've already completed are books that are in series, so I'm really pleased with the progress that I'm making for Series September. But first I'll start with one that's not a book that's in a series. This is Take My Hand by Dolen Perkins Valdez. I buddy read this with Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library and Maria, one of our subscribers, and I really loved it. I'm not going to tell you officially my rating because this is one of my 5-star predictions, but I will say that this book follows a young Black nurse named Sybil. She lives in Alabama and starts working at the Montgomery Family Planning Clinic or something along those lines. And one of the families on her list or whatever is this family who lives in a very ramshackle little shack and is very poor. And there's 2 young girls. I think they're 11 and 13 when this starts, or 10 and 12. Very, very young. And their grandmother takes care of them and the dad works as well. The mom has passed away, I believe. And this story just follows Sybil and these 2 young girls, and she is tasked with getting them on birth control. Even though one of them hasn't even started her cycle yet, she has to give these girls these shots and quickly learns that the shots haven't been FDA approved or something along those lines. And so she has a lot of hesitations right away, in particular because of their age. But then the story just carries on from there over the next couple of years of Sybil really connecting with this family, but sometimes crossing that line as like she's supposed to just be their nurse, but she inserts herself into their family and really begins to care and love for this family. She helps them find new housing, all of these things, and we kind of follow through a couple of years. And what I wasn't expecting is that at some point in this book, it's kind of switches over to a court case because of something that happens with the girls. They are able to sue this family planning clinic, and then that blows up into an even bigger situation. I really enjoyed this book. Enjoy isn't the right word. This was a heavy book. It was heartbreaking at times, infuriating at times, brought out a lot of different emotions in me. There were some things that I didn't like about the structure of the story, which I will get into a little bit more when I talk about this in my 5-star wrap-up. But I will say that it is an important read, and I do think it is one that I would recommend, even though it is at times difficult. Then we have 7 books that I read that are part of a series. I'll start with the 3 that get me caught up or finished a series. So the first is The Vanderbeekers on the Road. This is by Karina Yan Glaser, and I believe this is book 6. I think another one is coming out or is recently out. This is the next one that I needed to read. And this one had a lot of nostalgia for me because we follow this family. They live in this brownstone in New York City. And in this one, however, we're not really in the city for very long because we quickly hop into a van and go on a really long road trip. The dad had to travel to the Midwest in the previous book. And in this book, it's his birthday. And so the whole family rents a van with some of their neighbors and heads out to visit him. So there's camping, there's road trip shenanigans with a big family. My family went on lots of road trips when I was growing up, and I also am part of a big family. So I just could relate in a lot of ways to how squishy it all was and just the humor and the games that they played. Like it just felt very nostalgic. But also I just really love this family and their love for each other and the ways that they support each other. And it just was lovely. So I'm still loving the Vanderbeekers series. I completed the Winter House series with the 3rd book, The Winter House Mysteries. This is by Ben Gooderson. This book continues on the story of Elizabeth, who in the 1st book gets dropped off at Winter House and then learns of her connection to the family that owns this big hotel. This series in general is a lot darker than what I was expecting when I first started it. But the things that I like about it are the puzzles and the wordplay, just how smart Elizabeth is. I love her friendship with a little boy named Freddie, who also is a frequent visitor to the hotel. I love the family aspect of this, but I didn't love kind of all the way through this focus on reincarnation, or like bringing back somebody who had already died. And so there's a little bit of this occultic feel, this dark, this witchcraft kind of feel to it. And I really don't love that part. I just like the puzzles and the games. I am going to be unhauling this series because I don't think that I will ever read it again, but I'm glad that I completed it. It's done. And then the third book that I read that completed a series is Empty Smiles by Katherine Arden. Holy moly, this book was creepy. It was totally creepy. I think this is the fourth in Katherine Arden's series that begins with Small Spaces. I picked up Small Spaces earlier this year when I read Like Keisha from A Book Like You, who does read a lot of creepy middle grade. And this is a creepy middle grade. I listened to most of it during the day, which is great because this is definitely, for me, the creepiest of the four. We're dealing with a carnival and scary clowns. And it carries on the same villain that's in the other three books is the villain in here as well. And because this is the fourth book in the series, possibly the last, I think it's the last, it does try to kind of wrap it up and explain why he is doing what he's doing. And I didn't feel like that was explained enough for me. Maybe it would be fine for a middle grader, but I just was like wanting a little bit more explanation in that regard of like why this is all happening. It did leave the door slightly open. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger, but there's a couple things that get said at the end of this that leave the door open for more books in the series. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but the door is slightly open for that. But I do love the friendship group that's in this whole series. I like them very much, and the way that they are kind of from different groups at school, but they all, because of their experiences, become such close friends. I just really love the way that they support each other and love each other. But yeah, this one, I mean, the clown itself, I just feel like I should cover his face because he's so creepy. This one freaked me out. Not because I think it could really happen, but just it was the creepiest of all of them. But it is still middle grade, right? So it's not going to go too far. I could trust Katherine Arden because I've already read 3 of hers, but definitely it had some creep factor. Okay, another middle grade book that I continued in a series is The Black Cauldron by Lloyd Alexander. This is the second book in the Chronicles of Prydain, and I enjoyed this one. In this one, Taryn and a company of people all go in search of this black cauldron that had been stolen, and the black cauldron is magical and has gives a lot of power to the person who is owning it and controls it. And so we follow them on their adventure to go rescue and get the Black Cauldron. Taryn grows a little bit as a character from the first book. He's still not my favorite, and some of the other characters get developed a little bit more as well. I did start the third one of this, but it wasn't the right time to just dive right into the next one. I need to give it a little more space, I think, or just listen to it when I'm just listening, or read it in print, because I kept losing interest in the third book. But I will continue to make progress. I want to read the whole series, but I did read book 2. A series that I started a really long time ago is this Hagenheim series, Christian fiction by Melanie Dickerson. They start out, well, I think all of them really are in some way a retelling of a fairy tale. This one is like a Pied Piper type of retelling, The Piper's Pursuit. I enjoy this series very much. They're very light, quick reads, have a lot of heart. In this one, there's a village that is being tormented by a ton of rats, but also just outside the village, there's this beast, and everybody is just walking around afraid. Katerina is our main character in here, and her evil stepfather is kind of the mayor of this town. Oh yeah, children are going missing as well. So there's all of these elements that are happening. The mayor, the evil stepfather, has put out a reward that whoever can kill the beast can marry his daughter. He really wants to marry her off and kind of get her out of his hair. But in swoops Stephen, who is part of this big family in Hagenheim that we have been following through many of the books. And so he comes in to slay the beast. He is kind of like a prodigal son. He's kind of gone off and done his own thing, made some mistakes, was horrible to his family, and he has had a change of heart and wants to kind of prove himself and do the right thing before returning home. So he comes, he's going to slay the beast and kind of rescue this town before heading home. That's his goal. But of course, he meets Katerina and they start to discover what is going on under the surface of things. It was a fun story. I really enjoy this series. I'm not sure how many more that I have. It's a really long series, but I enjoy them very much. And there is, of course, a faith element as well. Katerina has a very strong faith. Stephen is questioning his faith because of the mistakes that he's made. And so that element is in the books as well. Really enjoyed that one. I read another YA, The Final Gambit, by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Inheritance Games series, which I would have been pleased if it ended here, but now there's a fourth book, The Brothers Hawthorne, and I do have that checked out from the library now as well, because I'd like to just finish this up. I think this could have ended it, and I think originally this was the ending of the series, and I would have been very happy with that. But now we have a fourth one, because the story that's in the first two books does kind of wrap up in here. So in this series, Avery at the beginning learns that she has been named as the sole inheritor of this billionaire's estate. But the condition is that she has to go live at Hawthorne House for a year with the family. There are 4 Hawthorne brothers who are, 2 of them are very close to her in age. 3 of them are pretty close. They're all pretty close to her in age, and she gets to know them. Her sister ends up coming to join them. There's all of these things that happen. This is another book that is full of puzzles and almost like escape room kind of puzzles and things that you have to figure out along the way. And Avery is incredibly smart and very good at puzzles. I like the focus in this one about looking at things from a different perspective and questioning kind of those initial judgments that you have. I feel like when you read a mystery, you immediately suspect people because of those judgments that we have in our minds. And this book questions all of those snap judgments that we make, and I did like that. I thought it was a fun read. Honestly, is it going to be a very memorable series for me? No, I'm not going to purchase the series. I'm happy to have borrowed it from the library, actually listened to it on audio. I think all of these I listened to on audio. Yep, every single one of those books so far I've listened to on audio this month. I haven't read anything in print. Yikes. But it's a fun series. I don't love the romance aspect. It's not a huge focus of the book. It's a little bit more in here, and it's a little bit more I don't want to say steamy because there's not like full on, but it's a little more descriptive about like how they feel, not just how they feel about each other, but how they look at each other and the things that they're paying attention to, and just physical descriptions that I just didn't really care for. I don't think it's necessary in this story. So that was not my favorite part of it. It's fine though. It's fine. And then I read A Cozy. This is another recommended book, and it starts a series. This is Keisha's probably favorite cozy mystery. Keisha from A Book Like You has influenced some of my reading this month, clearly. But this is Buried in a Good Book by Tamara Berry. This is a really fun read. So we follow a single mom, or a mom who's in process of getting divorced or is divorced, recently divorced, and her young daughter. Yeah, they're divorced because the dad is kind of deadbeat. He hasn't really reached out and tried to connect with the daughter at all since the divorce. And so they kind of escape for a little while to a cabin that was left to her by her grandfather when he passed away, the single mom's grandfather. So they're out there at this cabin where there's no electricity, there's no running water, there's no, like, it's a tough hang, especially for a teenager who needs her phone and her internet. There's none of that at this cabin. But as soon as they get there, they're like unloading the car, they hear some loud bangs, and then like fish parts and an arm come falling on them. And so, the mom is also a very popular mystery book author as well. So there's that aspect of it, of the whole story. So she is involved in this situation, and the sheriff comes out, who just happens to look exactly like the detective in her books. And so she kind of inserts herself into the crime scene, not the crime scene, but the investigation, and tries to figure out who does this arm belong to. And she's very good because she's written so many novels and does a lot of research. She's really good at identifying characteristics, and she knows immediately how long this body has been in the water. Like all of these things that she just kind of knows because of her research and writing. There were some funny moments. There were some sweet moments. I know Keisha absolutely loves this. I thought it was great. It was good. I don't have a lot to compare it to because I don't think I've read very many or any cozy mysteries, or maybe one or two, and they were super cheesy. This wasn't quite as cheesy as the other ones. I like the focus on the author and the writing. The detective that she writes about is willing to take risks and bend the rules, but the sheriff in town is a very like by the book person. He wants to follow the letter of the law, and so that kind of causes a little bit of conflict here and there. It was a fun read. So this wraps up the 8 books that I have read so far this month. I am loving the progress I'm making on Series September. I will tell you that I'm currently in the middle of 2. So I have Keeper of the Lost City still, book 9, that I occasionally will read a chapter or 2 from. The Miraculous is our middle grade March book club book for this month. I'm nearly done with this one. Next priorities are going to be my 12 books to read in 2023, sold on a Monday, which I haven't even started yet, and After Story, which is my Patreon pick for the month. Both of these are not part of series, so I have been very focused on series, but I feel like even if I stop with series right now, I'm happy with my progress. But these will be my next 2 to focus on. And also I have right down there is Words of Radiance, which again, I started in August on my trip listening to it. I really feel like I would need to start over because I don't really remember anything that I've read in that one. I would like to make some progress in that. So that's another one that I would love to get to this month, but I guess we'll see. We'll see. But I've already read 8, so it's possible I could knock out some more series books as well. I guess we'll see. I would love to chat with you in the comments below. Have you read any of the books that I talked about here today? Are you participating in Series September? How's it going for you? What has been a highlight of your reading month so far? Let's chat in the comments. I always love talking to you down there. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with me today. It really means a lot to me that you would support my channel by watching and liking and talking and commenting and all of those things. I love that you're here, and I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.